Hello students, welcome to lesson number 8. Today we're going to talk about the different ways that you could draw a chess game. Now draw is nothing but a fancy word for tie. So in a chess game you could win, you could lose, or you could draw the game, in which case the point is just split in half, so each player gets half a point for that game. So there are 7 ways to do this, but we're going to focus more on 3 of them. Of course, I'm going to go over all of them, but there are 3 mainly that we really need to know at this stage in our learning process. So let's go ahead and start. But before we even talk about the different draws, I wanted to do a quick warm-up exercise. So let me show you this quick position where we're looking for one move that the white pieces could do to put the black king in checkmate. And this exercise is not only to warm up, but I also wanted to stress a rule that we haven't talked about too much, which is the rule that says that the 2 kings can never be next to each other. So we always have to have one square in between the 2 kings. So if I try to put this king here right now, it's not going to let me. Over here, the same thing. Over here, the same thing. So with that rule explained, let's look for the winning move. So how can we put this king in check? So whenever I'm asked to look for checkmate in one move, I look at the checks. One of those checks has to be checkmate. We know that in order to deliver checkmate, we need to attack the king. So this rook could attack the king in only one way, by going all the way here. But is that going to be checkmate? Let's see. If we put the rook over here, now we have to CPR. See, it's captured. Can the king capture the rook? Well, yes. One step and it's captured. So that's not the right move. Let's see the other rook. Well, this rook also has only one square from where the rook could attack the king. And if we do it, now we do CPR. C is capture. Can the king capture the rook? No, it's too far. P is protect. Is there any black piece that could protect the king from this check? No. And then R, run away. Let's see, the king could run here, but the rook is attacking, and this rook is attacking too. Then going to this square, we have the other rook and also the king. Remember, the 2 kings cannot be next to each other. And of course, these other 2 squares, this king is preventing the black king from moving up. So this is the move, checkmate. And now let's move on to our main topic for today. So this is one of the first ways that we could do a draw. If you get to a position like this where we only have the kings left, this is going to be a draw. You don't have sufficient material to deliver checkmate. And that's the official name for this. It's called insufficient material. So now we know that kings cannot even be next to each other, so of course we're not going to do checkmate. But even if you had a bishop, that's not going to be sufficient to do checkmate. Even if I let you put the pieces anywhere you want on the board, you won't be able to come up with a position where the black king is in checkmate. There's always one square that he could go to. Here he cannot take me because of the king, but he could move over here. If I put the king over here instead, it's true that he cannot go here now, but he could still go here. So one bishop and a king is not enough to do checkmate. If we had a knight instead, same thing. One knight and one king is not enough. I'm putting him in check, but he can always move somewhere. So now we know insufficient material means you don't have enough material to put the other person in checkmate. So also, what if we had, let's say, 2 bishops? Is this sufficient? Yes. 2 bishops is proven that we can actually do checkmate. One rook is enough. One queen, of course, is enough. And how about one pawn? Well, many people might think that if one bishop cannot do it, one pawn cannot do it either. But the truth is that pawns, remember, they could move all the way to the end and then they promote into a better piece. So they could promote into a queen or a rook. So now we know insufficient material is one way to get a draw in the game. The next one is going to be stalemate, and this is one of the main ones. This is one that you really want to get right. Stalemate is actually very similar to checkmate. The only difference is that the king cannot go anywhere, but he's not in check. So let me show you what I mean. Imagine that I put this queen over here. Now, it's the black pieces to move, but this king has nowhere to go. If he goes here or here or here, the queen is going to be attacking him. So it's black to move, but they have no legal move to make. So that's what we call stalemate. Even though the white pieces are ahead by a queen, the game is going to be declared a draw. Nobody wins. Now, again, the main difference between stalemate and checkmate is that there's no check. If this bishop was over here, then this is checkmate. The king is actually in check. He cannot go anywhere, but he's being checked. So that's checkmate. But without the bishop there, then this is just stalemate. Now, let's say we had this pawn on the board. And I'm going to put my queen back. So let's say we get to the same position, but this time we have a pawn, and then I do the same move. Notice that the king still cannot go anywhere, but the black pieces have a pawn, so they actually have a legal move. So this is not stalemate because they have a move that they could make. They could just push the pawn, and that's it. Now let me put it back, but this time I'm going to put a white pawn in front of this pawn. So that makes this pawn stuck. They cannot go anywhere. And if I do the same move with the white pieces, now notice that this king cannot go anywhere like before, and this pawn is also stuck. He cannot make any legal moves. So this is going to be stalemate. Okay, so be very careful with these stalemates when you're winning. You're gonna get it a lot when you're a beginner, because we don't have that so much practice. So it happens a lot, and then it's really bad when you're winning by so much. Like you're winning by a queen. Sometimes we have 2 queens, 3 queens, and we get stalemates. Now the next one is going to be the threefold repetition. The threefold repetition is basically whenever the same position repeats 3 different times on the board, the game is declared a draw. It doesn't have to be consecutive, but if we get the same exact position for whites and black 3 times, the game is going to be a draw. And let me show you what I mean. So one example is this. Let's say I'm the white pieces, and I put the black king in check. Then they move over here, and I go back here. They move again. So if we keep doing this and we repeat it 3 times, then the game is going to be a draw. The reason why we have this rule is that we don't want the game to go on forever, right? So after 3 times, you could just, one of the players is going to just call the referee, and the game is going to be a draw. Then we have the 50 move rule. Now the 50 move rule states that if we make 50 moves without moving a pawn or capturing any pieces, then the game is going to be a draw. So we say 50 moves because this gives whoever is winning, in this case the white pieces have 2 rooks, it gives them a lot of moves for them to figure out how to win. If you haven't figured it out in 50 moves, then there's no point to continue the game. We make it a draw. But again, it's very important that you remember the exceptions with the pawns and the captures. Like if we had this pawn over here and I put him in check, they move, and this is move number 49. But then I move the pawn, there's a pawn movement, it resets back to 0. And also if there's a capture, like let's say there's a pawn over here and I just did move number 49, it's my turn, but there's a pawn captured, well, it resets everything back to 0. And actually it's not just a pawn capture, but any piece that you capture is going to reset it. So 50 moves without a pawn movement or a capture. That's why this rule typically is used in endgames where there are almost no pieces left. So people start counting up to 50. And then the other way of drawing a game is by agreement. So 2 people could just agree, okay, I offer a draw, would you accept it? Yes. If they agree on it, then they could just shake hands and the game is a draw. Why do people do this? Well, sometimes people offer draws because they're losing or they don't feel comfortable in their position, so they could just offer it. Sometimes they don't feel like playing. If you're playing in a tournament and you feel tired, you just don't want to play, you could talk to your opponent and then you could agree on a draw. So you just talk it out and that's it. Now, these ways of getting a draw are very common. These are the main ones I wanted to talk about. There are other 2 that have to do with the timer. Now, we haven't talked about timers yet, but maybe some of you have, so I'm going to explain them anyways. But for those of you who have been following this program, you don't have to worry about it too much. So anyways, These are two ways to get a draw. Is if you're playing with a timer and both players run out of time, and then when they look at the timer, both flags are down. Well, it doesn't matter who ran out of time first. The game is going to be declared a draw if both timers are out of time. Another way to get a draw with the timers is that if you run out of time. So let me go back to this position where we had the king and I had, let's say, the queen. So if in this case the person with the queen runs out of time, that game is going to be a draw even though they run out of time, because the black pieces have insufficient material to put you in checkmate. Now if they had 1 point, that's sufficient material to do checkmate. So now if the white pieces run out of time, the black pieces win the game. But if that's not the case, so let me take this off the board. If in this case that there's insufficient material, the game is going to be declared a draw. Okay, so this is all, guys. Now you know how to do checkmate, but you also know how the game could end in a draw. With that being said, I'll see you next class.